Greetings, YouTube! Well, if you clicked on this, you're interested in fixing or restoring, or at least seeing what's involved in a TRISTAR EXL MG1, MG2, and whatever other name and color they're going to put on this machine before some sort of Chapter 7 reorganization or something. And I do say that because Electrolux, who is the parent company, really had some hard times lately. So drink your coffee and join me for this little restore. Now this one's a little special than normal because this one was my sister's, and she moved, wasn't convenient to take it with her, yada yada yada, so it got sent to me. And a little backstory on this is I have the original receipt when this was $1,615 USD back in like 2003 or 2001. It's one of those two, and we'll date it once I get it more apart. But anyways, you can see it's got some scratches, some of that exposed magnolite, all that good stuff. So we're gonna break it down and wash it. Now the magnolite pieces, or the metal pieces, cannot go in the dishwasher. As much as I advocate doing that, they cannot, and that's because of corrosion in the paint job. So they actually have to be hand washed, which makes this kind of a pain in the ass to do, but we'll go ahead and get it done. And you can see the delicious Kirby cake on there as well. Brush roller doesn't look too bad. I actually have a spare bag of parts over there, so we're going to go ahead and take this apart. And if you're trying to do this with a Phillips like I just did, you're going to be rudely reminded that this takes Torx T25s. And I must now find my Torx T25s. So if you give me just a second to grab those. Got my Torx bits now. Actually, they're T20s now that I think about it. Either way. And there's nothing wrong with Torx. I actually like Torx. I just, on this particular bench, I don't have them handy for some reason. I was doing something somewhere else in the house. Alright, there's the T20. So we will set those all aside for now. And we're going to do T20 and start taking this thing apart. And a big thank you to our Patreon supporters, which helped make this video possible today. I decided that it would be best to, anyway, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys need to make it possible. I'm not going to go on a long rant, but Patreon's awesome. People who support me on Patreon are even more awesome. Ugh. You can see where the gasket got misaligned. So my sister was living in a different part of the country at the time after I gave this to her, and I bet her man had to work on this a few times, or for some reason somebody else was in here besides me. Not a vacuum shop. You know, I greased these bearings probably 10 years ago, and they're still going good on this brush roller. Kind of not even sure I should put a new brush roller in this, folks. Well, they're a little spread. I could go either way. Well, so magnolite pieces, like I said, they have to be hand washed. So this is going to get hand washed. And we're going to strip this all the way down, which is very simple. There's one piece I'm going to show you where not to lose, and then, like I said, super simple, super easy to do. This one's not complex, and yeah, those screws just fit right in that quick chuck, so that's what we're gonna do. And these were made to be serviced, so they are easy enough to do. Generally the belts don't need to be replaced on these. Usually the belts last as long as the brush rollers. The things I'm going to pull out right now that are not going to get washed, like the switch, I guess it's a circuit breaker technically. Now this is a piece of silicone for noise absorbent, and I don't like to hand wash this because otherwise I'm gonna fucking lose it. So set that aside in your tray. And if you're trying to do this at home, kids, don't do this at home. Bring this to your local vacuum shop. Support your local vacuum store. Go on Yelp, Google, however you find things with good reviews, and find somebody in your area to do this. I really don't recommend you do this at home at all. I'm going to set that aside. So all of that is going to get washed. That's even going to get washed, and I'll talk about that later. So that will get washed. Now onto the canister, which this poor thing's had a hard life. And she actually broke the cord at some time, and I sent her a replacement cord. You can see that that filter is trash. Her boyfriend did it, her husband, whatever he is, doesn't matter. Anyways, so we're gonna go. Doesn't matter who did it, is what I mean. So we're gonna go, excuse me, clean the rest of this up by taking it way more apart than you normally would need to. Start by pulling the cord loose. Alright, awesome. If you're not familiar with that, we'll just magnet trays make your life easier. There's only 3 screws to open the rest of this up. Let's see if anything was stripped. And just barely touched. Awesome. So after the screws are out, just pull those screws out. The whole thing separates, and oh, lo and behold, it looks like crap in here. Though I think he did a very nice job doing this. He even tied the wires together. That's so nice. He's a bicycle technician, so I kind of expected him to do somewhat decent on this. So we're going to go ahead and just cut some of this out. Basically, we're going to cut the power cord out. And everything else should have quick disconnects, I believe. Don't quote me. Let me finish taking the rest of this apart. Oh my. You know, I wasn't going to wash this at first, and then when I opened this up, I was just appalled that my own family member had it like this. So that needs to be washed. Again, Magnalite. Don't put this stuff in your dishwasher. Ugh. I'm tempted to break this motor apart and wash it. It's so bad. Cast it over there. That's garbage. I don't know if it was in a flood or what. Yes. You should not need a screwdriver to do what I'm doing, by the way. This should be easy peasy offy. Oh, damn. See, it's just stuck on there. Yeah, I'd say it got wet at some point. And this is the 2-stage motor. This is the better motor they made out of the motors they put in here. I'm looking for a date. Sadly enough, I didn't see one. Don't see any balancing marks on this, so I might pull this apart, but it's really rusted. We'll save that a little bit later. So I'm going to wash all this. One thing I'm going to do before I wash anything else is I have to pull the switch out. That's as much for drying purposes, and you don't want to get the switch wet. So if I remember, the switch just pulls out. Yeah, the switch just pulls out. Again, we're gonna try and not get that part wet. And we're just gonna cut this one more time. Bingo. The switch is not getting washed. Everything else here is getting washed, of course, except for that wire lead. And you just have to let it dry first. That's the key to washing all this. I'm gonna wash this. And we're gonna blow both of these out with compressed air. I'm gonna wash those two. Alright, everything's been washed. Yeah, this motor is not coming apart, unfortunately, because of the rust just keeps coming apart in the wrong area. So I hope I didn't bend anything taking this apart, but we'll find out. An area of concern is the carbon brushes and the state of this. If you can zoom in there for you, you can see that looks pretty bad. So we are going to just quickly check the carbon brush, make sure they're free, make sure we're not expending too much life or something like that. And this should come out a lot. This actually should have probably springed out, but not this one. This one's all right. I bend this just a little bit. I'm also checking for a little bit of corrosion, seeing if there's anything I can do to fight that. Wow, this is really... Alright. Let's pop this brush off. There we go. Actually, the brush looks fine. It's actually not too much corrosion. Just brush what we can. Right there, yeah, it looks pretty good. Be careful with these little copper things; they bend easy. I don't want to break them. That's again why you saw me being so careful with this. So, again on this side, I'm gonna do kind of that same dance. A little bit better. It's a little compressed air. Just dropping the screwdriver on the floor. That's just frustrating. It just wants to stay in a kind of a bent state of affairs there. Now, sometimes you gotta use a different tool for the job. Yeah, I'm just trying to brush anything off this that may or may not be a kind of a problem. I could polish that commutator a little bit. I find my sticks over here for doing that. Wasn't expecting to be doing that sort of thing. There we go. Got said things for doing that. And I'm actually just we're gonna do this kind of a different way than you probably have seen me do this before. It's 14, it's probably 12 now. Yeah, it's 12 mil. There you go. Close enough. So this is one way you can do this. Again, if you don't usually have to do this, but because of the corrosion here, I just want to awesome. Excellent. So there's it's been polished. Put this back together. So that's there. That's going to, it'll arc a little bit at first when I turn that on, but that's going to even itself out and make better contact in the long run by doing that. So in terms of manufacturing, some of these pieces don't make maybe the most sense, or at least not how I would do it if I was putting this thing together, but they didn't ask me when they were building this. Again, this is the bigger motor they use now. Yeah, it's pretty smooth. Alright. So, let's turn this over and I'll walk you through putting the switch in. I'll talk this again, why this isn't just a piece of molded plastic, why it's metal with the rubber thing over it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not only cost wise, but it's just complicating a piece. So a little extra step I'm going to do is just the switch gasket. I'm going to put a little bit of pledge on it. That's going to help preserve it. I'm also going to flip it so the gasket makes better contact with this thing. And you'll see there's a certain way you're supposed to put this in here. Looks like that's it. And that goes simply on there. Like that. And you're going to start piecing together your little screws here. Whoopsies. Sorry about that, folks. That would be my air hose falling. Trying to do this all in frame. Turn the torque down. We know this is metal, this stuff still strips, of course. Speaking of stripping, we've got to strip some wires. There's a fusible link in here. Hold up. Maybe. Yeah. I really need to buy myself a new set of wire strippers. But there's a fusible link right here, so just keep in mind if something isn't working, that might be your very much your culprit. putting this together. This is just going to knock everything down on my bench. There's a headphone warning for you. So this is going to go through this hole. I'll put that on. Then I'm going to do this part now. Hold it in place. These three amigos. And the screws should be pretty obvious what goes where when you're doing this. There's nothing special about trying to figure these out. Alright. It doesn't look like I scrubbed this, but this is actually the oxidization plus a little bit of extra corrosion. I might just dust that real quick with a dusting brush just to get anything else out. But I actually I did scrub this pretty hard. Paint's coming off of this. That's just how it is, unfortunately. But again, gaskets, I'm probably going to give them an extra rub down with some pledge. I found that this, or you can use Armor All or back polish. Any of those help preserve the gaskets. Really just a good touch of. And you don't even have to dry it, really. Just wipe off the excess. So before you assemble the wires of the motor, we are going to do this. And the cheapest way to replace this filter is to order the generic Amtech filter, the cage. We'll grab the filter element, throw the cage away, and put it in this cage. Now, at one time these were available separately. They weren't last time I looked. I hope that status changes, but yeah, so that's how we're going to do that. Just for our folks at home, we're probably wondering what the hell I'm doing here. I wonder that every day. So, and the reason we're doing this is weird ass part about this. What really holds this gasket and holds this motor in place is this filter cage. So now that we're doing this, yep. So now the filter cage, everything's installed, and we're able to put this excellent. Everything's coming together now. I'm going to tie these wires all together. Again, this is all very, very simple stuff. The wiring of this machine should be pretty simple as I do it. This might come as a shock to people, but I actually prefer wire nuts to those plastic clampy things, just because when it comes to serviceability of the machine in the future, wire nuts are easier to take off. But the thing about doing wire nuts is because this machine does vibrate a lot, you need just to always put a little bit of electrical tape. This is more of a lock tie. Again, just an extra precaution that I've always done since Dennis Duffy back in the day. Alright, wire that. I probably had some silicone on my hands there. When you're doing wire nuts, you also want to make sure there's no copper sticking out the bottom, especially in a metal housing of vacuum. Okay. So there's the power head to the switch into the motor. It's not a huge deal if you mix up colors as long as everything goes in and out properly. For these 3 wires, I think that's going to work better. You got to use the right size wire nuts, of course. And for this is just a perfectionist to me. I just want all these kind of straight and right. Now make sure the vacuum's unplugged, of course, when you're doing this. Bring it to your vacuum shop. If you don't feel comfortable, bring this to a professional always. Those guys need to eat too. All right, we got these wire nuts aside. Some of the old Kenmores actually used to use medical tape because they sourced it cheaper than electrical tape, because again, this is not really for going to be used as insulation. This is used more as a lock tie vibration guard against vibration type thing. So these don't come unscrewed while you're banging your vacuum around. Hopefully you don't bang this vacuum around too much. All right, so that's that. Sometimes there's a little thing to hook the wires on in here. This one doesn't have it. There was a zip tie in there. With this, the older ones, because the metal hose actually would go in here, that zip tie was really important, but really nothing's really going to get in the way or anything. You just tuck it in there, it ain't going to go anywhere. There are plenty of vacuum companies that come just like that. So, and as I'm sealing up this gasket, this is actually a little easier than some of the older ones. You just want to make sure everything's on there, nothing's tucked in, anything like that. There for you. So let's seal the main unit up. There should be a couple of screws here. We're going to have 2 big ones here, and we're going to have 1 small one over here. Because my driver's a little short, I'm just going to check the torque by hand. You can see here just how deep that hole is. Yeah, I just need to be torqued. I'll check all these by hand. Yeah, I don't think I set the torque right on that driver. Alright, excellent. As far as wheels go, we're going to put a drop of kosher lube, because I washed everything. That'll keep things from squeaking and really moving around. Other thing is these wheels, I don't know, we scrubbed them, but I guess they're freaking dirty. So I'm going to scrub those again real quick. My toothbrush. Wipe off the excess. It looks like it's dripping the cord, it's actually not. The cord kind of takes a path this way. So we got that done. I don't have a genuine outer bag, so I apologize to everybody who's super into genuine outer bags and all that stuff, I really don't see on this particular vacuum there being any advantages to that. I'm sure somebody can correct me in the comments of why that is, but as long as it's clean and air flows through it. So I'm throwing the gasket on the bag in case you're wondering what I'm doing off camera here. And definitely check out our Instagram. If you're not subscribed to our Instagram, I tend to do like little updates and things almost daily on Instagram. We only post videos once or twice a week. Alright. Again, because there's a gasket there, just pledge this around. Now it's going to go like that. Now, I could use paper bags. Or I could use this HEPA bag that's available now, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be using a HEPA bag. See how these do. A viewer of mine was complaining that the newer EnviroCare bag without the yellow were ripping, so I'm going to try these, see how these do. I've never really had any problems with them ripping, but just curious if anybody else has. Definitely comment below. Alright, now I think this does make a difference, but again, we're going to go with what we have. I believe that using the genuine post-motor filter on this is a significant advantage. But that's what I have in replacements. We're going to use them. There's a nice piece of charcoal. It's supposed to be help with odors. I'll let you know how that works. All right. So now everything's together. I'll try not to knock the tripod too much. We're gonna plug her in. Sounds all right. Thought that was going to sound a lot worse, that rusted motor. All right. We're going to clean up some paint mat scars and call that a done deal. I don't remember what this does. So if this leaves Mars it or not. Yeah, I think Scotch-Brite's a bad idea on that paint. My sister really beat the hell out of this. If my sister's watching, sorry. But it's gonna be like brand new next time I use it or anybody else sees it. I might try to get it repainted. I don't know, that might be going too far into the restoration. If I repainted it, would I want to keep it the same or would I want to do something fresh? Is the question there. Yeah, looks like just denatured with a rag is the best thing to do on here. And I have a whole tutorial on Patreon that shows how to get rid of paint marks and stuff on vacuums. In case anybody's interested in that. Alright, I feel pretty good about that. We're going to give this a little bit of love on that. A little bit of polish really makes these go a long way. Well, that looks pretty damn good. I'm going to push that to the side. And we're gonna work on the lid and so forth of this piece. Now off camera, I did blow the motors out. Again, we're gonna use a little bit of tri-flow. There's a sleeve bearing here. And it's just impregnated with oil. But that impregnation does dry out, so you just want to drop a little bit of kosher love on there. There's no reason to clean up this armature. Looks pretty good. All right. Next, when we're taking this apart, I'll start talking about this little blue thing and what it does and doesn't do. And I like to flip it over on its reverse side if possible. When we start to put this back together, it's not always doable. It's just something I like to do. Or at least spread it out so the wear part is in a different section. If I just knocked it off completely. It's little details like this that make a high-end vacuum a high-end vacuum. And they've cheapened these over the years, unfortunately. It's a real shame, but they really are a high-end vacuum for the most part still. Alright. We're just gonna, these aren't gonna go in full. We want this a little loose for when we tension the belt, and I'll explain that in a second. There's my bar of soap from a hotel. Again, very handy for what I'm doing. And this gasket, again, we're just gonna lube it up a little bit. Same with this. You could put grease on this if this is really worn. I don't particularly want to today, but some people will do that. Just a little tip. And then when you're doing this, key thing with this is you want to make sure that your wires in here are not caught in any way. So just make sure that those are nice and free. Set the reset switch. He actually just goes in. Really only one way on this. So because there's no headlight, this is significantly simpler than an Electrolux. Like a newer style Electrolux PN that uses mostly all the same components. Just plug that in there. Alright, and I got a new brush roller. My friend talked me into putting the new brush roller in this one, so I'll put a new brush roller in this. And we will do this. So now this is on there. These are two things. We're just gonna soap the belt, and this is really just for noise. And then you're gonna just check the tension. Hold it down. And that's good. Just check it one more time by hand. Make sure nothing's moving or slanted. Belt line looks pretty good. That's probably hard to see on camera, but you need to line that. Make sure that that line is straight. Just like a chain line on a bicycle, if that helps anybody, if you're familiar with that. Now here comes the part that looks like it got pinched, and this is just like an extra seal that sits on top here. Might as well be a piece of weather stripping. And what this does is it doesn't really seal the vacuum. That's not its job. Its job is to cut down on vibration so it's not doing that while you're vacuuming. So everything there looks pretty good. Again, when we put this together, we just check, make sure the gasket's seated. All right, which it is. Everything's looking great. Some of my screw heads are a little dirty, but it's okay. A lot of screws. Now this Magnolite metal that this lid's made out of and the canister's made out of is actually an aluminum alloy. It's not exactly the strongest stuff. So you're going to torque this the same, if not one notch less than you would like a typical plastic housing. Something I found over the years with this. Just like before, I'll just make sure we ain't got no loose screws by hand. Alright, excellent. It's really coming together nicely. A little bit of kosher love. This is really just to reduce squeaks in the wheel and the axle. So after all that, you hear me lecture a lot on this channel about using the right tool for the job, and this wire wheel is the right tool for the job that I'm doing right now. We're just going to pull off real quick. Pulling off the plastic. So we got this, and this has stuff stuck in it. I'm going to show you how to restore this. Now you can use hot water if you need to stand up the brushes. But in this case, brushes look alright. The area of concern is just the fluff. We're on a low speed. Just going to take this. And you can do this wet or dry. Out. So let's put this back together. I'll wipe this down first. Sorry, had to go get a rag. This is a part I really probably should have washed when I washed the rest of it, and I set it aside and forgot about it really. So we're doing it now. Just wiping that down. Not much to wipe down in here. We'll of course clean up the paint marks, which again I have a video on that subject specifically for Patreon supporters on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon supporter, thank you, and enjoy the video. Yeah, it looks like, oh, okay. Apparently I am a fool. There's only one way this goes. I am just making sure all that. And I'm not actually a huge fan of this tool, really at all. But it's the tool the thing came with. I think the cutouts really aren't big enough for it. Start these by hand. And that's how we clean that up. Alright, I ran upstairs and grabbed the hose. We've cleaned the brush tool off. Cleaned the wands off. We're just going to try everything, make sure everything's working, sounds good. we heard a sound change from the rear. Yep. Exactly what I thought. That aftermarket filter popped off. We'll see if that stays. Alright, I'm not really able to get a good seal on the hose, but I am able to get a good seal right there. I'm going to test it. Right there. So about 60 sealed. About 39 working. Maybe a better angle there, maybe not. So not particularly good. These weren't really particularly, blow your mind off powerful enough, but they've always been more than capable clean. So that's pretty much it. Oh, before I tell you to subscribe and all that, I want to talk about this. So I think this was a real afterthought. There should have been a cord rewinder on this. And because they made the body out of an unnecessarily heavy and bulky material, they probably skipped that because of weight. The cord winds on here, but I think it was meant for a shorter cord than they ended up putting on here. So every time you wind this, no matter which one you have, the cord will fall off on here because the cord's just a little bit too long. If it was this long, it would be fine, but it's like, let's say 3 to 5 feet. 1 to 2 wraps, just too long. I'm pretty good at wrapping these. Do that. But it tends to fall off really easily, so that's kind of a hassle about that, kind of a quirk that you should know about. Well, thanks for watching, folks. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Thumbs up if you liked the video. If you're going to hit it, thumbs down. Definitely comment below. I love to hear from you all. And definitely check out our Patreon, where you can see exclusive videos. Have a wonderful night.